the Somali fraud case metastasizing in scale and scope, many are calling for accountability. Where was the oversight? Where were our elected officials? Where was the media? Now, as a member of the media, it's all got me eager to take accountability for my own work this year. As the year comes to a close, what did I get right and what did I get wrong? Well, one thing that I got right was the tariffs. After the president declared April 2nd Liberation Day and imposed reciprocal tariffs on countries across the globe, the global economic elite went crazy. Wall Street went into a tailspin. The liberal media went berserk. And as a class, the experts and economists declared the end of the world as we know it. We were told that inflation—
If you have any kind of retaliation, which I would anticipate, I don't see how we avoid recession.
There's no country in history that has isolated itself and seen its economy get stronger.
Higher tariffs will be working their way through our economy and are likely to raise inflation in coming quarters.
They are probably the most stupid economic step taken by a president in this generation.
We were told that inflation would rise by up to 3%. We were told all trade would end. We were told the stock market would never recover. There were a few dissenting voices defending the tariffs. I was one of them. And what we argued was that the tariffs gave the president leverage for important national security goals. We said that they were correcting a dangerous dependence on China. We argued that righting our trade deficit restored dignity to the American worker who had been abused for the benefit of the elites for far too long. We were right. We end the year with record-breaking stock market yields. Inflation is the lowest it's been since 2021. GDP grew by 4.3% this year. And in a massive redistribution of wealth, American corporations and China ate the majority of the tariffs, paying over $200 billion straight into the Treasury. Less than 1/5 was passed on to the consumer. We crushed the national deficit by $600 billion. The experts were just wrong, and those who kept the faith were right. But the experts did get one thing right that I was very wrong about. They laughed when President Trump said he'd end the war in Ukraine on day one. I thought the president had a good shot at getting it done. Not on day one, maybe, but soon thereafter. And boy, was I wrong. Since Vladimir Putin invaded Ukraine in 2022, I believed he was looking for an off-ramp. I believed that what he really wanted wasn't to absorb all of Ukraine, an impossible task given his resources, but a commitment from the West that Ukraine would not join NATO. Now, this should have been an easy commitment to verbalize, what with Ukraine being too corrupt to actually qualify for NATO membership anytime soon. I believed that a foreign policy that put the interests of America first should have prioritized de-escalating the situation, ensuring that the American taxpayer not get stuck footing the bill for an endless war of attrition. Since he was elected to his second term, President Trump removed a lot of the financial burden from the American taxpayer by forcing NATO to pay its fair share of defense spending and forcing Europe to buy Ukraine's weapons from us. He also did exactly what my theory of the case would have prescribed. He made it clear that Ukraine will not join NATO. He said that Crimea is part of Russia at this point, and he's gotten Zelensky to agree to territorial concessions. Yet still, Putin's bombing continues. In his meeting with President Trump this week, President Zelensky said that they were 90% of the way there when it comes to ending the war, and I am praying that that is true. I never thought a year into Trump's term the war would still be going on. There's just no other way to put it than to say that I was very, very wrong. So what's the larger lesson here looking forward to 2026? Well, Trump is fighting two wars. One is a reset to global trade designed to maintain American dominance and restore the dignity of the American working class. The second is a reset of our foreign policy designed to reprioritize the well-being of Americans. Achieving those goals requires taking bold action, often flouting the received wisdom of the so-called experts. But it also requires admitting when you're wrong.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.